Hi, Dr. Wendy Rowley. I'm so happy to have you here on this show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on this Sedona Journal of Emergence Light Technology podcast that you've started. It's very exciting.
Well, it's an honor to have you contribute to the journal. It's great to see all of your work, and it's an honor to have you here. So, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as a little bit of a mix. I have training in the medical profession. I'm a naturopathic doctor with a couple other side degrees, and but I also, throughout my entire life, have dabbled in spiritual meditation and esoteric. So I have gone on a very large exploration of the spiritual anatomy because I find it fascinating as a healer. And I do a lot of energy work and energy healing in my practice.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
that's probably the easiest way to sum it up.
What are you focusing on now? Is it human design?
I know there is a discipline out there called human design. I named my site The Wonder of Human Design because just exploring it, the energetic and spiritual anatomy, I don't see how you could not think that there is some divine intelligence or creative source because it is so beautiful and so magnificent and very amazing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's that name.
Well, I love the name, and I think it's an easy website to remember. We're going to post that in the posts as well so that people can link to your website. And also, on that note, we're just wondering what has been the most intense or memorable experience that you've had in your work recently? Anything that sort of jumps out or comes to mind?
There's quite a number of those. The Great Global Healing Party has been really amazing to go to that level of doing that kind of work. It's very different. That's new. And I don't mean to sound like I'm plugging, but the heart field healing that's coming through now is also very different and very unique and very delicious and benevolent feeling. And so I would say it's very hard to sum up, but because you have the human experience of people having an experience on the table or feeling a release or feeling a presence in the room when you work with, if you happen to be an energy worker or a channeler. And there's that experience. And then there's the side of looking at that energetic anatomy when you're doing the healing work. That's also very fascinating. So
Mm.
it's very hard to come up with one particular experience because there's a lot every day.
Oh, wow. Yes. And do you feel in your experience that humanity is going in the right direction these days, or are we going more so into the the darker side, so to speak, or how would you describe it?
I I feel it depends how you're looking at the perspective of the world right now. Of course, if you're seeing it through news media, it's not so pretty. But if you're looking at it from the way human beings are coming together and choosing to do celebrations of energy work or celebrations of let's all get together and meditate or heal, or that is growing and beautiful and graceful. And I believe we're actually headed, even astrology has agreed with it, into a golden renaissance.
Mm.
And Alienia says we're in one of the three great golden renaissances that are within a planetary system of evolution. And that's big.
Wow.
That is big.
Wow.
That's a big concept when you think about millions of years of evolution on a planet. And a lot of people call this the Great Shift. And
Mhm.
she and many other people are bringing forward information that there's all sorts of setups and new things that come in at this time or that are done on the other side of spirit for our future evolution. And I some of my experiences tend to have me believe that that is true.
I feel a few years ago that we crossed this threshold where now we're probably as a collective going in a little bit more of a better direction, but that's just me. But I always like to ask the guides and professionals like yourself what you believe in your experience has been going on, especially with your clients and what you've observed from others in your practice. So, mhm.
Like, I'm going to add one other thing too, because it so much depends on our individual perspective or energy field of that day. You
Mhm.
know, as a healer, almost every mood or something that someone bumps up against where they don't feel that positiveness or that hope or joy, or which is, life is messy. It's not going to be consistent all the time, but usually they have some sort of energetic block or consciousness block or emotional or mental block. And when that gets relieved, you can see the spirit rebalancing the human into their natural state. And I believe our natural state is joy and peace.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you on that. When things are in an easy flow, that's how we know we're in the right state, don't you think?
Yes, it's that chance of staying in balance.
hmm Let's talk about channeling. Now, do you channel? Would you consider yourself a channeler?
I am definitely channeling. I never wanted to channel, nor did I ever expect that would happen. But and I knew there was something coming. I mean, even as a child and going into early high school, I knew whatever I came to do was at the end of more toward the end of my life. So when it started to come through, um, I I felt it was so beautiful and so profound, the words, and there was a way of describing things that I, as a human, wasn't able to do. And I also felt it's not my work that's coming through, that I'm just a conduit, and it seems to be our work on some levels, and it's also the group that has the channel that comes through. And I have seen there are people out on YouTube who are actually channeling, but they don't say so. And I feel that for the integrity, I like the idea that we co create in this magnificent world beyond what we may be, what we may see, but that this idea that even as humans on the earth, we need each other to create a better world. And so in healing and in the guidance that we can get at this time, it's this beautiful idea that we have all this help on the other side of the veil supporting us. So
Wow.
I chose to acknowledge the channel coming through because of that reason.
What was your first experience?
With channeling, I didn't
hmm
do it until actually, I want to say about 2019, 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
How
And
did it feel like for you when it first happened?
Um, it I'm very much someone who will check something out. I want to make sure of the caliber of the information that wants to come through, of the being that wants to come through, the consciousness. And so I had it checked out in a variety of ways. And we have the body. That's clearly a a skill set. I mean, we're spirits who have come down here into bodies, and do I want to rent out my space to just anyone?
It's a good way to put it.
So I did a lot of checking and getting used to it. And when I was first starting the energetic work that I'm now doing, and a little bit of the channeling, it was just an amazing experience because my husband was allowed to get used to it. For instance, if he was coming in, all of a sudden the healing work or the channeling would stop
Oh,
to,
wow.
to give him a chance to get used to it.
Huh.
So because it's a different experience. So the consideration, and then also part of the training I've had is that we also um, set the tone. We decide what we want, how comfortable we're willing to go. For instance, I don't allow anyone below the neck. I
Mm.
I just don't think, for me, that's what I was taught. And when you look at the spiritual anatomy, I think that makes sense.
That's
So
very interesting. Everybody channels a little differently. We all have the different anatomy, as you described. There's different ways that our spirit guides and other beings might want to come through for the information. So, when you experience the channeling, is it very physical for you? Do you go into a trance? Would you consider yourself a trance channel, or are you conscious while you're channeling?
I'm a fully conscious channel, and that's the only way I would do it. Um, that to me is a comfort level. And when the channeling started, it was a little bit of a moving that way. But as I have cleared through the energetic anatomy and done some research, there's something called high channeling, and that's just when you work with people as a healer. Over time, you'll eventually see that there's a little ball of consciousness, and that can go up and go into different places. So mine just goes up, goes over to the left, and there's a little bit thing that just comes right down through into the neck and the voice.
Oh, wow. Can you see that with your mind's eye, or
Yes, I'm very clairvoyant, and so that's why I've explored the energetic anatomy.
that makes
Um,
sense?
yeah, I have. Yeah.
How has that helped you being able to see clairvoyantly and having these experiences? How has that helped you on your journey?
Um, Fascination of seeing the energetic anatomy. Um, Interesting to see how different energies come in during different levels of healing. In naturopathy and in most medicine, there's this concept of physician heal thyself. And in some of the healing schools that are around, there's this concept that if you have the block and you don't move yours a little bit, you can't help someone move theirs. So
Oh,
there's a constant watching yourself go by and working your own energy field to try to stay clear, not only for the work but for the client and for seeing. So I find I just do that all the time. and
mm,
and so the what you'll see of the energetic anatomy changes as you heal and move through clearing that spirit body.
mm. I love that you describe that. Clearing, doing our work is the most important part, as you said, being in integrity, right? And
Yes.
how does that show up for you when you're doing the work every day?
Well, I'm trying to think how to answer that. I mean, life is messy. It's not a perfection thing. Women really like that perfection thing. It's part of our feminine nature, and it's normal. Actually, it's not a, a thing we have to fix. And there are times where you're like, oh, I'm just a little messy, and you could try to move through it and try to heal through it. But sometimes you have to bring your presence in to that space and sit there with it to allow the soul forces to come in until it reveals itself. So
Mm,
sometimes you're just, waiting for that to clear, and you're kind of in a bit of a muck. But what I have found, though, with clients and including on that own self journey, is since the 90s into 2000s, the energy began to move faster, things began to clear. And now I find boom, 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 with whatever the shifting in the energies for all of us and the inflow that's coming in, a lot of which was Aliani has spoken about in your Sedona Journal articles. Things clear very quickly and very fast and very deep.
mm. You're right. It has been moving faster and faster recently, hasn't it? I feel like there is a gap between 2012 or 13 to now. It feels like the gap is so small, and that I blinked and it went from 2012 or 13 to 2024.
Yeah.
It went really fast.
Did you hear about any of the scientific work after the tsunami in the Indian Ocean and all of that, and how they went and measured that rift in the ocean and did all their calculations, and they speculated that time has sped up.
Huh.
which is fascinating concept.
I was not aware of that. That's really, really fascinating. Wow. So, how does when you channel, does it come about spontaneously, or is there a certain time of the day that you like to do the channeling, where you have your meditation practice?
I see it as a little bit of a partnership. First, I see channeling as simply an exchange of information. Even though this being might be more evolved than I am, we're equal. And I don't know how, if I can prove they're more evolved than we are, other than they tell us their history. But I believe we're equal, and we both respect each other, and it doesn't just come in on its own. There's boundaries, and well, I basically made a new contract, because if I worked with this particular consciousness back in a long, long time ago, and I'm now in a different time, I sort of, there's this concept of upgrading that agreement into present.
Mhm. Wow.
So I've done that, and I've said some things, and I've made some new things. Like, well, I want to know things ahead. I tend, but, they say very few of us are in the now. We're either tracking in the past or the future. Well, I happen to be a futurist, so I like to know things ahead. And also for earthly planning, it works out a little better.
Absolutely, it does.
So that's an example. That's one of the things that I put into the upgraded agreement.
Mm, I absolutely love that you are talking about agreements and the way that you prefer to have the information come through, and that it's a partnership. I really love that you're speaking to about free will, essentially, that no matter what, on some level, whether we're conscious of it or not, but for you, you're conscious of it. Um, there is an agreement as you're describing, but there has to be permission for the being to come through, because a lot of people are scared, to even allow themselves to open to talk to their angels or their guides or another being to help.
Yes, and it was a little scary in the beginning,
Mm.
and I took baby steps, and but the proof is sort of ends up being in the pudding. The new healing modality that's coming through, the heart field healing and the information, and applying some of the principles and continuing to do that energy work. It becomes the proof in the pudding. And you wonder, well, how far can we heal in a lifetime, and how far can we go, and how far should we go, and what's the best for my energetic anatomy or my spirit body? How much energy can you run through there? How much is healthy to channel? And so those are all
Wow.
you want to ask. And
Mm.
so I see it that we're sort of explorers and pioneers. And
Wow. So describe to me this moment when you started channeling recently, when this happened for you. What was going on in your 3D world? Were you washing dishes? Walk through the moment for us. It would be great.
okay, let me back up. I ever since I've been very young, I've had a lot of spiritual experiences, and some wise person said you actually create those. So I, at a young age, sort of felt like I don't know how to love, and I don't know how to get the connection. And as much as I love my parents, I realized they didn't have the answers. So I began the search for God, or if I may say that, or the creative source, and always asking for that guidance. Which I think one of the things that's important if you get into spiritual work is to set your intention of what level of information are you looking for, and what level of
Mhm.
guidance. So if 95 to 98% of the world believe in a higher power, well, then I figured let's just go there. And let's just try to get to source as much as we can. So when you do healing work and you meditate for a long time, they say these cities or powers can rise up. and you can stop at them, and or you can just say nope, keep going. So even this work now, I look upon it as something that's coming through and I'm tasting, and if I could use it for the greater good of all, then I will. And so I was doing a the healing work, and I can't remember exactly the first. I think it was even in 2012. And when COVID hit, I put a shout out to a bunch of people I knew, and we formed a COVID group, and we meditated and did healing work during COVID, and it was a very smooth experience. We didn't have the whole sort of drama of the shutdown and what was going on. And it was at that point that the I should explain how I was doing it better. I was starting to explore the energy field and do some sound healing, and I started to get some guidance on making certain geometries and bringing light into that. And if I got to a point where I couldn't see something clairvoyantly, these suggestions started to come in, and eventually I saw a ring of whitish golden beings, and I recognized one of the voices, and I was like, well, thank you for the help. Who are you? And they said, well, we are the Pleiadian timekeepers. And I was like, okay, not who I expected to find on my search for God. So I had to look at that a little bit. And I worked with that group for a while and did different levels of healing and had some experiences and things of that nature. And then in 2019, they said it's time to introduce you to Aliania. And when she came in, and that's when I began channeling more directly, I recognized her from an experience in my 20s in a meditation class with a spiritualist reverend who had, she used to say, have your guides take you where they want you to go. And to get to the chase of that story, a pre-experience so that you would have validation that you were really doing some astral travel. And on the second one, they took me way up above the planet to, it was so high you could see the bend of the earth. And this hand came out and said, look, watch. And a golden grid appeared, and you're like, oh, that's nice. And then watch again. And it turned into a red grid that was broken, splotchy. Parts you got a sense were even anger, disharmony. And the hand just said, this has to be healed. And that was the end of that. Now, if
Wow.
it were happening now, I would be asking a lot of questions. But back then I was like, okay. So that was the end of that. And 40 years later, Aliania was the one the Pleiadian timekeepers introduced, and I recognized her vibration as being the one that took me up.
How did you recognize Aliania's vibration?
I don't know. It's just, it was familiar. I just remembered the experience. And she said there were actually three of them, one behind and two on the side, but I could sense the presence on either side. And it's like a flavor. That's the best I can describe it.
I love
Uh,
that description.
yeah, I was like, I know this being, this energy, and very sweet and soft. And so I began in 20.
Wow. I guess you're again speaking of a very important thing, which is discernment and free will and intention. So, those three things I'm hearing going into that very benevolent. And so, when we go into an experience such as channeling with the intention of benevolency, we get that back.
I'd like to clarify something too. I was meditating at one point prior to the 2020 period, and I felt a presence come in, and it was on the side. It wasn't channeling through, and it said, "Metatron will channel through you if you like." And I was like, "Well, thank you very much, but I don't know who that is, and I'm just going to check with the creative source and ask that maybe they send that source." So that's what I did. I plugged it up to the supreme being, the creator, however you want to use that word. And I said, if this is meant to happen, let it be for the best and highest good of everyone and for me. And you choose. I don't know the bigger plan or the will. So I kind of went that way because for
Mhm.
me that was comforting because I don't know why that presence wants to come through.
Hmm. Wow. So you updated your soul contracts as well since you guys have met. you had, it sounds like a beautiful remembrance that you had, or I don't even want to say met. I want to say reunited, right? And how did you, for those that are watching who want to upgrade their soul contracts, is there a teaching that you might want to pass on to them?
Right now, yes.
Yes, about upgrading a soul contract with either a physical person or, in this case, Aliania, who is your guide. Would you describe her as your guide or?
I don't describe her as an actual guide. There's several levels of guides that you can work with in healing. Um, there's um, there's a this is an interesting idea. There's a pool of souls. I found in the ancient records of the Akash that they call it the guides of soul of supreme being's will of healing.
Wow.
And we can actually do that in our sleep state, become healing guides. And then apparently between lifetimes, we can do that. Or it's just going on because we are so quantum and so multidimensional that who knows where our soul is speckled about through time and space from our perspective of lifetime after lifetime. So there's that level of guys, and they work a certain level of the energy field. And then there's, my understanding is there's a universal life guide that might come in that's with you your whole lifetime. And that your soul then can also percolate guides in for particular periods. And I don't know if it does that through your Akash, your higher self's records of times you've been here, old friends you might have had in previous lives, and that part of that soul might come in. I don't know how it all works completely, but some of the things I have researched and known. And so I don't see Alienia as a guide. I see her as what's called a higher creational being who works the creational levels. And
Mhm.
they work with the angelic and archangelic and Arachai kingdom doing various work and
Wow.
step energies and doing things.
Well, that's amazing. When I think of the Pleiades, I think of the color blue or a soft blue or an indigo color. Does she ever appear to you like that? Or,
Yes, I have seen flashes of her in various ways. And and I've also had other people identify her as blue, and I'll see her. I've seen her soft blue, like that. Oh, maybe like this, and then I've seen her at times where she's been a little darker blue.
mm,
Um, and I've seen her sometimes be like a consciousness ball, and sometimes more like a spirit body, like
wow.
So I also have to say this is the best our human mind can perceive. You know,
Yes.
a wise man taught me that your spirit works in pictures,
Mm,
and think about people getting dreams, or your soul works in pictures, and you think about people get all of their dreams are in pictures.
wow. Yes. Hmm.
Our clairvoyance is where it is now, giving us the best representation of a message and a picture that it can. Uh,
Wow.
interpretation from between soul and here.
Yes. Yes. From my understanding as well, everything is images or a form of that. And when we're in our heart, we're more connected with what we're creating or and I love that you're saying that. So, um, any thoughts on that?
Yes, yes. I've been really getting more into the heart field and looking at that because of this new healing modality, heart field healing. And and that is for men and women. And and it's a fascinating thing because you see a picture of the spirit body and the seven chakras and the aura around it. That's the classic picture on the web. And um, Alienia says that that auric field is our higher self's records.
Oh.
There's also a picture you can see, and they say the whole aura is actually about 26 feet wide, and there's an outer torus around it. And she
Mhm.
says that's the galactic records of our soul, which are
Oh, wow.
planets and is here now having its experience. And so the idea of the heart field is that it is based in resonance. It's very much about the higher self, which becomes a group higher self out in various levels of the consciousness grid and the great field that people talk about, where that benevolence and the love of the creator, if you want to simplify it that way, is. And so the heart field, I'm now just figured out the last couple of days in the work is actually part of the outer torus. It's that large of a system, and I believe it might very much be related to the divine feminine energy.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm very techie.
I
Uh,
love it. Being interested and immersed in the heart is very important right now, more so than ever.
yes, yeah. I and it's a wonderful practice to. It was said very well by Roland McCready of the Heart Math Institute in the first Great Global Healing Party that's on YouTube. He was like, become aware of when you're in your heart field and not, and when you are and when you're not. And it's a wonderful practice, you know, and of how you can shift just by becoming aware of that. And if you have a difficulty in communication, it seems like all human problems are communication, really, on some level.
That makes
And so,
sense.
yeah, and so if you're having that difficulty in some sort of exchange, and to just go, okay, I'm not going to drop down into that match with that person where that friction I might be feeling. And if I can bring that energy up to that heart field, everything changes.
Mm. Oh,
So,
that makes me feel very good when you say that.
yeah.
So, part of your energetic work with the heart, are you working with clients on a massage table, or do they just come to you to talk about their lives? How does that work?
As you keep doing the work, it changes over time.
Mhm.
And that's the one of the amazing things about your spiritual anatomy. It Everything is always changing there. And it's meant to be fluid and flowing and the energy moving through. And so originally I might have done table work and more counseling. I was doing more one-on-one, but the heart field work is really about group work. And
Mm,
so now it's about bringing groups of people together and teaching them that. And it's still very much a one-on-one thing for people to use in practice, but there's a component of it that is group work. So the Great Global Healing Party is us all getting together, uniting as one higher self heart at the human consciousness grid level and scrubbing that, starting to scrub that. And apparently this opportunity is the first time it's ever been here since, we
yes.
first came here. Really big concepts, heady concepts, but there's just definitely something going on. And
Yes.
people are looking to join together in some positive way.
Mhm. We've talked a lot about Aliania. Did you have any other groups that you're recently working with? Do you allow anybody else to come through you?
I, well, I sort of liked the idea of one. Now, when you work with guides of soul, they will come in, and when they're done with their work, they just go, and you bring in another group. So I assumed it might be like that, but I'm starting to realize maybe with some um, beings that you work with and maybe help with projects, or you co-create together, or you help with bigger concepts like evolving, uh, helping us all evolve together. I don't know how long that goes on, so I'm just rolling with it for now.
I
While the
love
work,
it.
yeah,
That's such a good answer because that fluidity means that you're in your heart, you're going with the flow, and there might be another group who comes and shows up and gives you other information soon, or not.
yes. And I think I'd like to mention that if you just sort of stick with that idea of looking for source, you'll
Mm,
go through a period where, like I went through a period where all of a sudden it was deceased relatives, and
mm.
everyone was with some issue with a deceased relative, and I was doing more one-on-one work then, and then after that it changed to something else, and then after that it changed to something else, And I just let that come and go and keep going, okay, what would you have me know now? What service can we do now? And, and
Yeah,
take care of me in the process.
that's important right there. And do you believe that if an extraterrestrial consciousness came to you, that you would say yes to that contact?
Well, this is the funny thing. Those Palladian timekeepers I did not expect. And Alienia says she's a Palladian mother of sound. And I did not expect that. So I don't know how it works. I don't know what's really on the other side of the veil there. I know there's us there, and I know that there's this, and I haven't really. I don't know what other kinds of beings other people have channeled. I was sort of deep in the work for a long time, and COVID gave me a chance to look out on the web and get back into sort of life again. And I was like, wow, what an explosion of healers and modalities and people have all come forward. And I'm so thankful to them because they gave me the courage to come forward. Because
Wow.
when it was asked by Eliania to come forward and bring this onto the web, I was like, really? Uh, well, we're gonna make all these weird noises. Okay, I will. But I found healing. So
Hmm.
just never know. So I'm grateful for all the people that came forward and bust open those windows and let the fresh air in for some new ideas and concepts for people.
Well, that's beautiful. And do you have any advice or recommendation to anyone else who wants to open their channel up to communication with people on the other side or anybody else?
Um, think of it for the greater good of all. Think of it that you ask the creator to send you that and that it be for your best and highest good. And other than that simple alignment, I don't know what better we can do, you know?
Yes, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, does Aliania want to introduce herself? Are you comfortable with perhaps bringing her through for this talk?
Yes, I did a little check-in with her and she does have something to say. So I will get out of the way temporarily. I will be listening. I will be in full consciousness and we'll let that flow. Okay. Oh, I was going to say one other thing based on something you said.
Yes.
I'm forgetting what it was. It was about consciousness from an entity. Yeah,
Mm.
from an alien.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I would say it depends what type and what their intentions were.
Absolutely.
Because I one of those things in the agreements is I want to know your intention
Mm.
about that.
That's a really great piece of advice. I guess folks can say, what is your intention out loud or in their head or in their hearts? You can say it both ways, or uh, saying it out loud is always good practice. Is that right? Great. Beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, good day to you, dearest Lindsay and audience. My name is Alienia of Cosmic Service, and I am a Palladian Mother of Sound. You asked a very good question about aliens and beings on the other side of the veil. And because of that, we're going to do a small segue, if you have time, about because we did put in one of her YouTube series, and we believe it was the New Connection. We spoke a little bit about humans creating in their world and how you change the astral world as you evolve through time through group creation, as you become more benevolent and bring in greater qualities of the creative source. So we can say that in this planetary system, there is a particular protection that you all have here where not anybody can get in. There are a couple energetic presences that are here that maybe are not working with the group intention of this system, which is for the best and highest good of all. And those will be moved out. And some people talk about those on the web. They are no concern of yours. And we're going to share with you an experience this one had in her meditation, seeing with clairvoyance in the astral field, because for her, it spoke volumes of the power of a human and its connection to its divinity and to the creative source, or what you call God. She was doing some healing work and she ran across a being that was there who looked a little bit like some people might call a reptilian being. And she pulled her energy back and said, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm just doing my healing work. And she also was taught by the Pleiadian timekeepers how to that presences in the astral world only see a dark space with an energy in it, and it can be a little frightening. And that because you have a spirit body and it is connected to soul and creative source, that you can intend to pop your light fibers through. And we showed her how to do this once, and she saw our scintillating light body when we did it. So she said, okay. So she popped her light body forward. This being fell down onto one knee, bowed its head, and went like this and said, please forgive me. I did not know I was dealing with a light being. And he backed off. And in that moment, she realized there's nothing to fear on this planet, that we are divine, we are protected, and we are magnificent. And it was a beautiful lesson to have. For fear is a great deterrent to raising your energy up. So we just wanted to share that this is a particular experience, and many others have brought forward this information and channeling, that this is the experience of an experiment of free will. We did not have free will in our planetary system in the seven sister Pleiades, which is a difficult thing to explain because you do have it. But think of it that you can choose your energy. You can choose whether you will create in benevolence for the greater good of all, or you can choose to create against that concept. We did not have that. We had to evolve a consciousness that then brought in free will choice. You were given free will choice in the beginning as an experiment to see how that would work. And it has been beyond expectation. For as we said in one of our YouTube channelings, you have evolved far faster than we did. And it is beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And you have made the shift to want to go to an enlightened planet far before we did. Now, we said we were something like, I can't remember what we said, but 235, 248 million years more evolved than you are, which, as she said, does not mean better. It just means we've evolved to be able to be encapsulated consciousness and shoot through, like your movies show, wormholes through space from our planet to yours. And we have been here since the beginning of laying these consciousness grids that you talk about. And that is why we are here now again, to help with the changing of those and the clearing and the healing and new connections and new upgrades and things of that nature. So let us get to what we were going to share with you. We're aware that many, many, many people not only are looking to evolve, but they're looking for understanding of what's happening now. And what we would like to share is that the energy you are seeing on the planet is only a temporary phase. It might be through the rest of one of your lifetimes, depending on the age you are at, but it is not going to be a long period of time as far as the greater evolution goes. Well, we can already, in our ability to see potentials, see its end. And so we want people to know this confusion, this feeling like wars are starting up, this feeling like nuclear weapons might be going off, this feeling like the resources are running out, that the population is becoming too great, that we won't survive is a short period of time. And if we were to give a time frame for it, we would say in less than 100 years, this will be gone. And our shift change time was over 300,000. That's to let you know the scale of how well you all are doing. And that sounds like an impossible thing, but it seems to be this idea of free will with an infusion of the connection to divinity is a beautiful thing. So it's an interesting concept to think that you all create your spiritual connections. And so we gave you ours from the point that we were very advanced, and you are creating and building upon that, if we may say that. And then, like we did, you will wrap up your information and take it to another system. And that's the way it gets passed on. As this one said in describing how you all co create together, and now you know there's a whole bunch on the other side of the veil co creating with you. Well, all the planetary systems and solar systems and galaxies are co creations also. And it's like a big neighborhood, if we may say it that way. So when you get to a certain point, people say, well, when will those intergalactic beings come? And why do all the movies only see them as negative? Well, because the consciousness hasn't changed enough to get to that point. But only the benevolence is allowed in this particular system. So we just wanted to say, have faith, have hope, keep up what you're doing, keep the idea of getting together in benevolence and groups, keep the idea of kindness and love, keep the idea of the heart field, because there's so much more that's coming that's going to open in that over the next 350 years, to the point where the science is going to come and blend and improve what the spiritual healers have known for a long time and what they see. And that will change a lot in consciousness, would it not? Indeed. So we want to give you some ideas, some little carrots to think there's beauty coming, some little warm, fuzzy kittens and soft material so that you know that this period you're in will not last long. And to know that the consciousness is changing very quickly, and you all change it by deciding, yes, let's come together and do this. Let's come together and change this. And you can fast track through these bumpy times faster by doing things of that nature. So we have done a shout out in your Sedona Journal to keep up, because there's a benevolent wave coming in the next 6 years of that divine feminine, and people will start to feel it's changing, it's changing. But we're saying keep up those group activities, keep up those prayer vigils groups, keep up the healing groups, keep up the work, and fast track through it faster, because you can do that, where you are divine and you are divinely connected in your being. I think you're at the end of your time of your interview, so we will leave you. But we have more to put forward in the Sedona Journal, and what's coming next year will be very surprising. Peace be with you. You are dearly loved. Expect benevolence in all you do, and we bid you adieu.
Thank you, Aliania, and all that who are with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. I saw your eyes change.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that for us.
You're welcome. You want me to leave you with a little tidbit if we have time?
We have as much time as we need, absolutely, and thank you for that.
I've been really into exploring the female spiritual anatomy because it has some extra things that the male does not.
Oh, wow,
And
interesting.
women have a unique ability. We have
Mm.
the ability to resonate soul forces, and those
Mm.
can come through our Akash of our auric field, and the soul will pick up that gold and resonate it. Or it can come through the heart field, or it can come through the voice,
Mm.
and a little bit through the eyes,
Oh,
because the voice and the eyes are connected in some of our older anatomy that's getting upgraded.
I had no idea. That is absolutely fascinating, and it also makes sense.
Yes, we have a third energy field that men don't have, and
Wow.
extra capabilities, and we're getting upgrades.
Wow.
Tuition.
I have to ask, just because we live in a dualistic universe here, does this apply to female souls, or how does that work, regardless of the body?
In the energetic anatomy of a female, there's, well, I thought there were three different levels, but now I'm thinking there's four or five. And those are all getting upgrades now through various people's work. Eventually there'll be a couple people that are giving shout outs about that.
That's great.
And some of the work Aliani is bringing through is some of that. Some of it's in the heart field healing because the women have an extra upgrade that they get for heart field healing because they have an extra connection. If I could say it as boldly, we have a connection from our heart directly out to that great field, to the
Mhm.
large, massive soul group. We have that direct connection.
Wow.
And that makes sense because we birth souls into bodies. But
Yes.
but there's other aspects to it that seem to be coming forward for more understanding during this time.
Wow. That is so exciting and one of the most interesting things I've ever heard as of lately. So, wow, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this interview today. Um, Everybody, this is Dr. Wendy Rowley. You can find her at thewonderofhumandesign.com. Very easy website to remember. We will put that in the post. And in the Sedona Journal of Emergence, Alienia has been channeled through Dr. Wendy Rowley. So you can find other information at sedonajournal.com, where you can find useful, loving information and guidance for your soul's journey on this earth plane. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well for more like this. And thank you for watching. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience about your work right now, your website? We can edit this in. Um, and any other information about your healing modality that you want to just plug, so we can insert it. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll round up with the if you're a woman and you're interested in some of the things that we spoke about today, there's something else that's come in called the heart tones, the tones of the heart, or the heart tones for women. And that is juicy work. And there's been the shout out for us to get together and do some work with that and eventually get together in groups and do something with that. And there's information about that on the Wonder of Human Design website. And that's just coming in now, also.
Beautiful. And can folks who are interested in connecting with you go through your website for
Yes.
that? Okay, great.
And
Awesome.
I hope to be getting some events together soon with that.
Beautiful. Well, I can't wait to see your next articles as well in the Sedona Journal. It's been beautiful to have you a part of this. And thank you again.
Yeah.